Okay, we're live, Prabhus. Hare Krishna, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We have Yasodananda Prabhu and Visvakarma Prabhu. Yasodananda Prabhu currently is residing in, where are you, Prabhu? What part of
California?
Northern California. And
Near Sonora.
Okay, Jai. And Viswakarma Prabhu, where are you currently residing?
I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, Prabhu.
Jai. Yasodananda Prabhu and Viswakarma Prabhu, Yasodananda Prabhu joined Srila Prabhupada when he was 17 in 1969, and Viswakarma Prabhu joined in 1971. And they have a very rich history in ISKCON. Yasodananda Prabhu was traveling with various devotees all over India, collecting money for Krishna Balaram temple. Yasodananda Prabhu also was the Gurukul teacher, specially appointed by Srila Prabhupada. And then he opened various temples. He also went to Fiji at one time when they were opening the temple in Fiji. Visvakarma Prabhu bought the temple in Toronto, right? What year was that?
That was in 1970. It was actually in 1976.
1976.
Yes.
So as you can see here, they're heavyweights, as they call it, from the 1970s. And they are going to be talking about the history of Srila Prabhupada's movement, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and how Srila Prabhupada had it set up and what Srila Prabhupada exactly wanted. Right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they are going to talk about Srila Prabhupada's, what is it called? Disciples group? What is it?
Ron, we formed a group called the Prabhupada Disciples Association.
Yes.
Which has three specific things that we adhere to. One is we do not accept the changed books that have been done and distributed in ISKCON now currently. The Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are so many changes in the books which go against Prabhupada's specific instructions. That's one. Number two, we do not accept the GBC elected guru system. There is no authorized system for electing Diksha gurus that Prabhupada introduced into our mission. This was a fabrication by some GBC men after Prabhupada's departure in 1977. And three, we do not associate. We do associate with members of the Gaudiya Math only from a distance. We're not interested in hearing their philosophy, their teachings. As I was personally instructed by Prabhupada, you might know, I have 2 letters that were sent to me, said that we should be careful not to associate with Prabhupada's God brothers for various reasons. And hopefully as we go along into the future talking about this, we can elaborate on the reasons why Prabhupada wanted us to avoid their association. So a new group called the Prabhupada Disciples Association, and we're promoting Krishna consciousness based on the principles that Prabhupada is the Diksha and Sishya Guru for all his disciples and all the new people that come to this mission moving forward.
Jai. So, Yasodananda Prabhu, you have had a lot of experience with your God brothers 69 all the way to 2022, that is 50 plus years. So some points that Visvakarma Prabhu has said about association with other groups and other disciples of the Gaudiya Math, what have you experienced and why is it so important to stick to Srila Prabhupada specifically if we want to be actual disciples of Srila Prabhupada?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because this is a very important point. Srila Prabhupada gave a lot of instructions to his disciples in his books, various conversations, numerous letters about forming an association base for developing Krishna consciousness or love of Krishna. So it's a very long history of Srila Prabhupada's relationship with the Gaudiya Math. The one thing I just want to say in the beginning, Prabhupada was always very gracious, very considerate, and very polite in his dealings with his god brothers. Although it is well known that he had differences with them, philosophical differences with them, specifically over the issue of initiation, acharyas, management of the society, and various other related issues. But Srila Prabhupada never engaged in personal attacks or insults against his god brothers. Now, there's two different categories here that we're talking about. We're talking about general statements that Srila Prabhupada made in his books about the breakdown of the post-1937 Gaudiya Maths. And then there are other specific statements that Prabhupada gave in various conversations, various personal letters to disciples like that. Now, when we will analyze in a separate session many of these statements, it's important to remember that Srila Prabhupada was initiated by his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and was given the mandate to preach all over the world in the English language, specifically in the Western countries. So Prabhupada fulfilled it. Now, with regards to Prabhupada's instructions specifically to his disciples not to associate with various members of the Gaudiya Math, this has been well documented in various newsletters, various blogs, websites, and I don't intend in this part of the session to control details, although we'll deal with that. But basically, Prabhupada did not want to repeat of the same causes, the same issues that had a very negative effect on the united mission of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So he formed his institution with a certain mandate, with a certain approach, with a certain name, with a specific way of behaving and preaching. So for now, for the time being, this is basically, we'll leave it at that. With regards to the Prabhupada Disciples Association, this is along the lines as Hare Krishna Society, a group that we have with Damadosh, Nrsinga, various other devotees, to basically preach Srila Prabhupada's message without adulteration, without changes. Now, this particular group was meant to reach out to many Prabhupada disciples who felt estranged or alienated or basically neglected by the association of Srila Prabhupada Society. And many devotees who are serious about spiritual practices, we have weekend classes on the internet on Saturday and Sunday, and we're starting a new website. We're starting to basically trying to reach various devotees to get them involved in Srila Prabhupada's teachings, Prabhupada's preaching. That's basically one of the foremost aims of the process.
Just a quick note, the connection looks like it's not really clear because it's breaking up from your side, Yasodananda Prabhu, maybe because you're in the mountains or something. But anyways, we'll do with what we can. So, so some points you said about general statements, and then general statements generally are taken out of context. As we can see from post 1977 till now. So these are some of the things we'll be covering. And can you just give some of the general statements which were taken out of context, which we'll be going deeper into later?
Well, as everybody who's read Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita specifically in the Adi Lila chapter 12, when Srila Prabhupada makes a comments on the various sons of Advaita Acharya, 3 of which deviated and 3 of which followed the instructions and teachings of Advaita Acharya. And Prabhupada makes various comments about the breakdown of the Gaudiya Math. Now, Srila Prabhupada these are general statements in his books where he did not identify any specific individuals. Now, in various letters and various conversations in the conversation book, Srila Prabhupada goes into more specifics, more direct explanation of why the whole institution broke down, specifically over this guru issue, guru appointment issue, initiation, Acharya appointment issue, and all these related topics. Now, Srila Prabhupada in his books was very tactful not to mention any particular names or direct his points towards any specific individuals. But in various letters, for example, in a letter written in April of 1994 to 1 GBC, Rupanuga Prabhu, he gives a whole breakdown of what happened to the Gaudiya Math institution, why it broke down, the various psychology of the breakdown, the mentality of the individual involved in the breakdown. So Srila Prabhupada was very careful to instruct and give very valuable guidance to his disciples, specifically many leading disciples, senior disciples that were involved in the administration of his society, to warn them not to make the same mistake in our ISKCON camp. And it's exactly what took place in 1978 with the GBC of ISKCON. They went and consulted some individuals who basically were involved in that post-1937 breakdown of the United States. Now, again, as I said, this is a very long topic with a lot of details and a lot of various quotes that we will deal with in the future. But basically, what we saw in the post-1977 ISKCON with the GBC is a repeat of the same big fundamental mistakes and causes with this idea of Acharya appointment and everything else that we saw that took place in the post-1977 Gaudiya Math, a sort of Gaudiya Math Part 2. Now, Prabhupada never engaged in or trying to retrieve the assets of the Gaudiya Math. He just went on and followed the teachings of his spiritual master, simply to preach Krishna consciousness, to engage in writing his books, distributing his books, like that. So for the time being, this is all we're going to deal with today. But at some later session, we will engage in a lot more details and read some of these letters and statements so devotees would clearly understand what we're referring to and what we're talking about.
Visvakarma Prabhu. So now one question to you, Prabhu. Why is this so important, knowing the history and what actually Srila Prabhupada wanted? Why is it so important? You're muted, Visvakarma Prabhu. You got to unmute yourself.
This is
specifically from people joining ISKCON right now, meaning that they get a Prabhupada book, they like what Prabhupada is saying, spiritual life resonates with them. Why is it so important knowing these things?
Well, the essence of our philosophy is Guru Tattva, the principle, Uttama Adhikari, being able to deliver the conditioned souls. So Prabhupada taught us that he was present in his sound, called the Vani incarnation. There are 2 types of association. One is the personal association of the Guru by Vapu, and the other is by Vani, by sound vibration. And sound vibration is really the incarnation of Prabhupada in his Vani incarnation, which is non-different than him. In other words, when you listen to him, actually, I was mentioning to Yashoda earlier, I had a chance to attend maybe 150 classes of Prabhupada over a period of 5 years, going to the Mayapur festivals every year. Now, nowadays, I can listen to the lectures on audio tapes, audio platforms, and I'm able to be more attentive to what he's saying now than I was even back then. And it's very enlightening to see his words are timeless. Like there was one of our God brothers who came up with this concept of PPB, post-Prabhupada books. In other words, he was saying, this God brother, so-called guru, that Prabhupada only presented a certain level of Krishna consciousness. This also comes out in the a lot of people that go to the Gaudiya Math, where they say, oh, Prabhupada only gave a certain understanding of the Gita, but the higher understanding, you can get it. I saw this past one devotee, Jagat Guru Swami, who had a different name. He went to the Gaudiya Math. I saw him give a talk in Vancouver, and he said, I want to take Sridhar's Gita to the GBC so they can see how more the information is there for them in his translation of the Gita. Completely offensive. Absolutely, for a disciple to minimize his spiritual master in that way. So Prabhupada's position as the spiritual master for us is the issue that we're trying to present to the new people. Not only a lot of the ISKCON people from the past, they are in a lot of different, let's say, narcissistic states. Everybody thinks they know. But the fact of the matter is, we want to present, especially to the new people, that Prabhupada is the source, is the connection for them back to Godhead. Look at what's happened in the movement, how so many of these so-called initiating gurus have fallen down. And then they say, oh, we'll just get another guru. No, this is a mistake. We want to correct that for everybody's attention.
Right. So according to you, Visvakarma Prabhu, you're 70 plus years old now, right? And
74.
You're 74, so you're going to live maybe another 35 years. So what do you think is the most important thing which you have left right now, which you want to give the audience, which is not given by anyone else? Meaning that what do you have to contribute to Srila Prabhupada's movement now?
Well, the most important thing is that we explain to people the importance of reading the books that are not changed. Okay, because that's the essence of Prabhupada's work, was the presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam and the presentation of Chaitanya Charitamrita and the presentation of Nectar of Devotion and the Bhagavad Gita and the other books that he's written. We've come to learn that they've made so many changes in these books, 21,000 changes in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first 4 cantos. So many thousands of changes in the Bhagavad Gita. They changed 500 verses in the Bhagavad Gita. So this type of changing of the books is a curse to the human society. And it is a great, so we want to make sure as a group that people understand we have to go back to the original versions of Prabhupada's books. That is the most important thing, because that's the conduit back to Godhead.
Yasodananda Prabhu, can you follow up on that and give some more insights from your understanding, Prabhu?
I agree that this point by Visvakarma Prabhu is very important. Personally, I had personal experiences being in Prabhupada's presence, specifically in June of 1977, after the Rascal editor conversation, where I was in Prabhupada's room, and Srila Prabhupada told me, says, you tell these GBCs If they change one word of what I've written, it will spoil everything I've done. Says, now get out and write a letter to the GBC. And I was so stunned, I didn't know how to react. And then Prabhupada was upset. He says, I said, get out, go write a letter. So from that one incident, it made a profound impression on me that Prabhupada did not want his books to be re-edited, rechanged, people going back to so-called manuscripts. No, Prabhupada did not want that. He wanted the first original edition of his books to be printed and reprinted. That is one point. But overall, what we're trying to emphasize is all of these basic fundamental teachings and practices that Prabhupada introduced, the deity worship, the way of offering arti, the way of offering bhoga, the way of doing kirtan, all of these practices, the original books, the original system of initiation, all of this should be conducted according to Srila Prabhupada's original instructions. Now what we have in the movement is a complete set of hodgepodge introductions, which have nothing to do with many of Prabhupada's original instructions. So these are some of the items or some of the issues that we'll be discussing in more detail later. Because the danger is, if we don't carry out Srila Prabhupada's teachings as they were handed down, that's going to break down the disciplic succession. Here's what Prabhupada said in Perth, Australia on May 9th, 1975. Ganesh, Srila Prabhupada, if the knowledge was handed down by the saintly kings, evam parapraptam, how is it that the knowledge was lost? Srila Prabhupada, when it was not handed down, simply understood by speculation, or if it's handed down as it is, they might have made some changes, or they did not hand it down. Suppose I handed it down to you, but if you do not do that, then it is lost. Now the Krishna conscious movement is going on in my presence. Now, after my departure, if you do not do this, then it is lost. If you go on as you're doing now, then it will go on. But if you stop, then Prabhupada finishes. So this is a very important point, because we have received many communications with various devotees, both first generation devotees, current generation devotees, who are concerned about the introduction of so many new ideas, new changes, and so many new things that have evolved since 1977 that were not introduced or given by Srila Prabhupada. Our aim is to restore the original teachings, the original methods of practicing, the original books, original method of kirtan, original method of artik, and all of these other points. This is one of the ideas, one of the points that we're striving for.
Right. Something like this, was it attempted in the previous years? Well, with when you guys were younger at one time, right? I mean, in the bodies.
There have been attempts in the past to reform things in ISKCON, but there have been a lot of how would I say, reluctance from many individuals in leadership position. There were attempts in 1979 in Vrindavan in February. There were attempts in 1986. There were attempts in 1990. There were attempts even with our friend Krishnakant in England in 1996. There have been numerous attempts at different points in time to rectify the situation, go back to the original system Prabhupada wanted. And it's our duty as Prabhupada's followers and students and disciples to always strive to follow his instructions and go back to his original teachings. Specifically, this point that was mentioned by Visvakarma Prabhu about not changing the books. That is very important, and we are striving for that.
Try. Visvakarma Prabhu, do you want to comment, Prabhu? Go ahead.
Well, the one thing too, Prabhu, is that the management system in ISKCON has been changed dramatically from the way Prabhupada had set it up in the 70s to the way it's running now. Originally, Prabhupada would want a responsible person in the temple to take the role of the temple president and represent him. So the devotees, and it was the responsibility of the temple president to follow strictly the regulated principles, to be an example of Krishna consciousness on behalf of the Guru, representing him in the individual centers. And so it was up to each individual president to work in cooperation with Prabhupada. And as the GBC got going, Prabhupada had introduced the GBC, we would work as a team, because Prabhupada wouldn't be able to spend that much time as the temples expanded himself personally. So what he would do, he deputed specific people that he entrusted with the responsibility to work in cooperation with the temples. Now, this ran into some difficulty with Tamal Krishna Goswami. I remember when I was in Mayapur in 1975, I believe it was, we brought these complaints to Prabhupada because they were going around and sabotaging the temples, taking devotees out of the temples, collecting money in the areas without any respect to the legal aspects of working with the local government authorities. So all kinds of trouble was being caused. And then the GBC started to move into a role beyond the temple president, where they became, as Gopal Krishna would say, the ultimate managing authority. Oh, for what? Prabhupada, in his instructions, he said that the GBC should come to the temple, listen to the class, review the bookkeeping, and associate with the devotees and inspire them. Prabhupada wanted them to become inspired by these so-called senior people. And now the GBC has become the ultimate management authority. There are no more temple presidents. What kind of movement is that? Nowadays, you're hiring temple presidents. You know, like they're looking for a temple president in New Vrindavan, I just saw online. They're looking for, I believe. And they can't get anybody to do it, even for the money. They're going to pay them a salary. They give them accommodations because the movement has been changed by some ambitious GBC members. Back then, there were the 11 GBC gurus that became the next coming of Christ. So this particular type of ambition by the GBC back then and progressing along has contaminated the movement to the point where people have lost their individual enthusiasm to spread the mission. And what we want to do is continue to encourage people in whatever situation you are in. Because, for example, Dr. Ron, if you say anything to the GBC nowadays, or you complain about anything that goes on, they banish you. Like we were banished from the movement. Yashoda was considered to be the most dangerous person in ISKCON because he was against the Guru system. When they wanted to go to Vrindavan and bring 11 Vyasasans there, take the money from the pujaris, from the pujari department, and use it to build Vyasasans. That was Bhavananda's plan. This became a very corrupt system, which is extended on now, and we'll deal with it in the future sessions, how this unfolded in such a way that now it's caused the whole destruction of the momentum of the Hare Krishna movement. There are no more BTGs being distributed. Prabhupada said the BTG would be the backbone of the movement. We were distributing hundreds of thousands of BTGs when he was present. What happened to that? All interference by the GBCs and deviant people that tried to take leadership roles in the movement that weren't qualified.
So one more question, Prabhu, before we end it. People who are devotees who are coming to Krishna consciousness, they see this video. What should they take from this video? We know that the book changes are unauthorized. We know the management system, how Srila Prabhupada wanted, is not even close to what Srila Prabhupada wanted. what can they do personally in their life, in their Krishna conscious life, which can have a change in the overall outcome of the movement that is going on right now. Yasodananda Prabhu.
Yeah, one thing they can do is they can always chant Hare Krishna.
Yes.
And they can read Prabhupada's books. Hopefully they can get the original books, which are still available through various places on the internet. So that's the first fundamental point, is the chanting, get the books. But one is to also use his intelligence to discriminate what's proper association and what's improper association. Right now, what we're experiencing is many devotees who have been basically part of the once glorious institution of ISKCON, coming to us with so many questions about the behaviors of some of the leaders. Why there are so many changes? Why the children were molested? Why the books were changed? Why is it that salaries are being given to temple presidents? There are so many questions, and they do not to receive adequate, credible answers from the management. So what we are proposing is people have to go back to Prabhupada. Prabhupada's instruction, Prabhupada's original way of the books, original way of doing kirtans, and there is association out there. Just like we have classes on the weekends, on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, we have a Bhagavad Gita class, and we have another class very early morning on Saturday morning with different devotees from different parts of the world to discuss these issues and basically focus our attention, refocus our attention to Srila Prabhupada. For the time being, that's what devotees can do. And in this way, that people can revive their Krishna consciousness or increase their current Krishna consciousness and get some good association and go back to follow Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. Visvakarma Prabhu, your last comments?
Last comment is we have a network of devotees worldwide that are, let's say, in tune with the Prabhupada focus direction that we have. So there's a devotee in Montreal, Prakrita, who's been very successful in preaching there. We have a devotee family in Vancouver, Navadweep and his family, who are also doing programs and spreading Krishna consciousness in their local area. I'm also running an ashram here in Hamilton, and we're looking at expanding food distribution and expanding book distribution and a farm community. And we have somebody in near the new Talavan farm, a devotee there that's running an ideal Varnashram system. And also Dhamma Ghosh is running a program where he lives. And Narashringa is running a program where he's living in America. And you're running a program in Sacramento, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and there are other devotees that are working with us. There are people in the Philippines. There are people in India. There are people all over the world in Europe that are looking for an alternative to the ISKCON post-Prabhupada ISKCON situation, where all it is these elected gurus, this changed books, and a whole changed system of practicing Krishna consciousness. So we're promoting people in all of our areas and working to bring everyone together as time moves forward for whatever way we can help each other.
Jai. Okay. So we'll end the first session here, Prabhus. Thank you very much, Yasodananda Prabhu and Visvakarma Prabhu. We'll stop the recording and we'll start another session if you guys feel like it. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.